Making friends as an adult feels strangely unnatural. Most adult social life is just a series of status checks. What do you do for work? Where do you live? How's the house? How's the career going? Everybody is trying to signal stability, competence, success. We're so busy proving we're functioning adults that we slowly forget how to just be human beings around each other. And honestly, that's why so many adults feel socially exhausted, even when they're technically connected. Because modern friendship often feels performative. You sit across from someone trying to seem interesting enough to continue talking to, trying not to overshare, trying not to seem awkward, trying to present the most optimized version of yourself possible. And after a while, adult connection starts feeling less like friendship and more like low level social management. That's the hidden problem. Most adults try to build friendships through shared conversation, but the strongest adult friendships are usually built through shared task. That's why tabletop gaming is psychologically fascinating. Because the board game is rarely the real reason people keep showing up. The game is the social prosthetic. The thing that removes the friction of adult vulnerability, that's the part most people miss. Because hanging out is actually weirdly stressful for the nervous system. There's no defined role, no structure, no objective, no clear endpoint, just two people trying to manufacture chemistry through conversation alone. That creates pressure. But tabletop gaming changes the entire social environment. Now there's structure, rules, objectives, turns, shared focus. You are no longer staring directly at each other trying to force connection into existence. You are looking together toward a shared problem. And that changes human behavior dramatically. Because once the brain becomes focused on strategy, humor, storytelling, or cooperation, something interesting happens psychologically. The social surveillance system quiets down. The part of the brain constantly asking, am I being judged right now? Starts relaxing, and honestly, that's why some people feel more socially natural during games than they do during normal conversation. The game gives the nervous system something safe to hold on to. A bounded environment, a role, a rhythm, and people get intimidated by the giant rule books sometimes. The complicated mechanics, the nerd stereotype around tabletop gaming. But honestly, the rules are not there to make people perfect. The rules are there to create a fence, and once you're inside that fence, something strange happens psychologically. You stop trying to be productive. You stop trying to impress people. You stop trying to optimize yourself socially, and you start playing again. That matters more than people realize. Because adults rarely get safe environments to experiment with identity anymore. As children, play was identity rehearsal, pretending, testing, exploring. But adulthood slowly removes those spaces. Everything becomes practical, efficient, useful. So when adults sit down at a tabletop game and suddenly become the reckless rogue, the confident leader, the emotionally expressive bard, they are not just playing a character, they are safely experimenting with parts of themselves that everyday life rarely gives them permission to access. That's powerful. Because sometimes it's easier to say, my character feels abandoned, than I feel abandoned. The mask creates safety, and strangely enough, that safety often creates more honesty than direct vulnerability ever could. That's why tabletop gaming becomes such a powerful social laboratory. People stop performing adulthood for a few hours and start revealing pieces of themselves accidentally. Their humor, their fear, their competitiveness, their empathy, their creativity, their leadership. And unlike most adult environments, the table rewards participation instead of image management. That matters more than people realize. Because modern adulthood creates constant performance pressure. Work performance, social performance, relationship performance, status performance. But game night creates temporary relief from all of it. For 3 hours, nobody cares about your LinkedIn profile. Nobody cares how productive you were this week. Nobody cares how polished you seem. Everyone is just trying to survive the dungeon together. And that us versus the problem mentality changes group psychology dramatically. Unlike push-pull relationship dynamics where people accidentally trigger each other's survival systems, cooperative games synchronize people. Now the table becomes collaborative instead of performative. And during intense moments, a critical dice roll, a near defeat, a shared victory, something fascinating happens physiologically. Attention synchronizes, emotion synchronizes, sometimes even heart rates synchronize. The nervous system starts co-regulating through shared focus and shared emotional stakes. That's why people can walk away from a 6-hour game session feeling emotionally lighter than they have all week. Not because the game escaped reality, because for the first time all week, their nervous system stopped defending itself socially. And another thing tabletop gaming solves surprisingly well: consistency. Adult friendships usually don't fail because people dislike each other. They fail because modern life destroys proximity. Everyone gets busy, schedules drift, months disappear, but weekly game nights create anchors, predictable reconnection points, and consistency is what transforms acquaintances into real friendships. Not intensity, repetition, shared history, inside jokes, remembered moments. You don't just remember a game, you remember the feeling in the room when the dice finally rolled a 20. You remember who stayed calm during chaos, who made everybody laugh during tension, who sacrificed their character to save the group. You stop learning people's biographies and start learning their spirit under pressure. That's why these friendships often outlast the ones built entirely on small talk. Because humans bond through shared experience faster than shared information. That's what many adults are secretly missing now. Not more networking, not more social media connection, shared emotional reality. That's why the tabletop has quietly become a modern version of the village square. A third space, not work, not obligation, not productivity, just structured human connection. And honestly, that kind of space is disappearing everywhere. In a world divided between work and responsibility, the gaming table becomes something emotionally rare. A sanctuary, a place where your only responsibility is to the moment and the people sitting next to you. And a lot of adults do not need more self-improvement. They need more environments where their nervous system remembers how to play again. Because we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And tabletop gaming gives people something incredibly rare: a temporary return to authenticity. The board is just the excuse. The connection is the real goal. What's the last activity where you completely forgot to perform for other people? And if gaming helped you build real friendships, when did you realize these weren't just players anymore? Let's talk about it in the comments.